one. How cool is it that in every single business, the key to your success usually is more customers, and that comes as a result of marketing? And if you're struggling with that, you're going to want to pay attention to this episode. Let's get this one started. Here we go.
Shut up and sit down.
Look, a business can give you everything you want in life: prestige, wealth, freedom. It can also take everything away from you. This show is for those who are willing to take that risk. These are the real life stories of entrepreneurs. But before we start, I have one small favor to ask. Please leave a comment. It can be advice, critiques, tips, feedback, or share this with someone, because your engagement is the most valuable and most powerful form of social currency. So thank you, and welcome to another episode of Business Buzz.
Ladies and gentlemen, are your marketing efforts falling flat? Want to turn your marketing dollars into a trackable result? Look no further and get ready for some insight in an insightful episode that's all about supercharging your marketing game. Our guest today is a seasoned speaker and visionary leader who knows just how to stop wasteful spending and steer business towards success. With a track record of bagging American marketing awards and a Friend of Tourism awards, their expertise is ticketed to marketing excellence. Leading the charge at Maly Marketing, our guest is a force to be reckoned with. They're not just about marketing, they're about setting new standards. Whether it's strategic branding, advertising, or unleashing creativity on a project, they're your go-to. But this episode isn't just about marketing prowess. Our guest's passion for education and community shines through and through. So tune in today and get ready to tap into the treasure trove of marketing wisdom. So let's welcome to the show, without further ado, Mr. Steve Maly.
Thanks for
having me. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Appreciate it.
Let's do this thing, man. All right. So first and foremost, marketing. I feel like everybody has a journey for entrepreneurship. They got to where they are because of something. For me, marketing came as a result of failing in my first business ever. I knew that I needed to get in front of customers and tell them what it is I did a little bit better the next time I jumped into a new venture. Learning marketing has been kind of the passion for me going forward. How did you get here? How did you decide marketing was what you were going to get into?
Yeah, it was interesting. I was literally in 8th grade and took an advertising class and just kind of fell in love with it. I remember seeing like billboards in the small town I grew up in, and it was just always kind of intrigued. I'm like, that'd be interesting to create some of that stuff. And so when I went to college, is that I went in for marketing, one of the few people that never changed their degree or never changed their major whatsoever, and graduate that. So it's always been a passion of mine since literally middle school.
Let me ask you about that college experience. I hear over and over again, people who go to college for marketing and then they get out into the real world, they don't always connect, but I feel like oftentimes, at least in the college sense, there's some fundamentals there that they're teaching that kind of help play into the role of a marketer. What was your college experience like? And then how does it compare to what you're doing today in the real world?
Yeah, it's interesting because I'll talk to students quite a bit really about the journey, because here at the University of Nebraska, and it's the same with a lot of colleges, not all, but a lot of them, is you have marketing that's in the business college, and you have advertising that's more in the advertising, or in our case, the journalism school. And so a lot of times people go into it like, I want to make things look pretty. I want to do some strategy in advertising. But they go into the marketing side of it, where marketing is much more the business aspect of things. What does this really look like? What does the strategy look like over the top? Not necessarily the nuts and bolts of advertising and what we typically would think of in regards to media buying, production, those type of things. So for me, I really love the marketing aspect of it, because marriage is, what I really find interesting on the advertising side of it, which is business. And how does this look like from a business point of view? So we can have business conversations with our clients instead of just like, hey, look, this looks cool. I think this really worked. Like, go check it out. Like, we understand the business metrics behind it. That's why I talk a lot of times to students, like, try to get a little bit of that, the experience on both sides of it, on advertising and marketing, so you can understand when you're talking with clients in particular, like where their point of view is coming from. So I really like the business knowledge that marketing gave me. And unfortunately is that I went that route instead of just pure advertising, because as an owner, it kind of fits me a little bit better in my role.
I always find it interesting talking to customers on the difference between that marketing and advertising. I think a lot of it comes down to ROI, right? Like when you're spending advertising dollars, there's a direct correlation with the dollars that you're spending and the return on investment, at least for small businesses doing pay-per-click type advertising or keywords like on YouTube and Google. compare that to some of the marketing dollars that are spent for brand development. This is just understanding who this person is, becoming relevant in a specific geographical area. Doesn't have the direct ROI correlation that an advertisement usually does. How do you kind of get that across to not only the students to kind of understand the difference, but at the end, a customer who is putting the money down to build their brand or get those customers?
Yeah, so much of it's around education on that side of it. There's a fantastic book that came out. Now it's kind of mandatory reading in the office called The Long and the Short of It. So it takes a look at campaigns worldwide, and not just simply like how pretty they are, how many awards they won, or anything along those lines, but what truly was the results of those campaigns and what the media plan looked like, what did the whole balance look like. And it shows time and time and time again, and it varies a little bit via industry, but time and time again, roughly about 65 to 70% of your money should actually be spent on branding, because people need to get to know, like, and trust you before they're going to buy from you. And if we're doing direct response over and over and over and over again, all it is look at me, buy from me, look at me, buy from me, look at me, buy from me. There's no dating involved. And so we do some branding really over the top. It helps when you do make those asks become a lot cheaper with it. And we've actually gone through some case studies at times that can drop your cost by 30 to 40% because now they know, like, and trust you. So it becomes very easy for them to be able to open up their wallet book and give you some money.
Today, I feel like there's more opportunity for you to build a community, which is kind of what you're talking here when you're talking brand awareness, right? Understanding who you're talking to on a regular basis, what they're all about. But in today's society, I feel like that's a community, the people that kind of jive with you. They tend to, we call them followers nowadays, but it's just a community of people that maybe have the same vision or the same ideas as you do, that want to go on the same journey or willing to at least watch and be a part of your journey. How difficult is it? I mean, I feel like it's not very difficult to get people's attention. It's hard to keep people's attention and kind of take them with you on this journey. And I know one of the books that I thought was pretty interesting was A Hero's Two Journeys. And that idea of being the guide for your customer and kind of helping them along their journey kind of makes that impact for growing that community. What advice would you give for anybody trying to build that community of people so that, yeah, ultimately they can sell to them, but mainly to keep them?
Yep. A lot of it just comes down to, you got to lead with value, and you got to give away a lot of good value for free to a certain extent. When I first got into business, and I've been in business 19 and a half years at this point in time, but I remember having chats with clients and be like, hey, you got to give somebody some good golden nuggets, some big things of what you kind of do. And I'm a big believer, you can give away 95% of the stuff. I mean, look at Alex Hormozy. Sorry. But like, he's giving away a ton of stuff. He's building a ton of value, and there's a huge community, huge following. When I first started bringing that up, people were like, I can't share this. That's what people pay me for. I can't share this. But with that being said, if you share a bunch of this info, majority of people don't have the time, the knowledge, the expertise, the resources, the fill in the blank to actually execute on it. So when they realize they can't execute on it, they're going to come back to you time and time again. So we always take a look at that as building up that community. Let's lead with value. Let's retarget with value. And then let's retarget with that ask. When we've seen it before, if we can take people through like 5 to 6 different steps of content before we even ask for anything, it actually becomes a heck of a lot cheaper than, again, just showing an ad and click at me, buy from me now type of thing. But yeah, it's that sense of community for sure, because we all want to belong to something.
I love Alex's stuff. His company, I mean, his model's pretty simple. I'm going to teach you how to get to about $3 million in revenue a year. And once you're at that point, then we can have a discussion on how we can scale from there. He's like, but if you're making less than that, I'm going to give you all the tools that you need to get there so that you can implement them and become that company that we actually want to work with. And I think you're exactly right. Giving away those tools and giving away those skills, at least on your content scale, is the value that you needed, and people just don't take the time to do that. I literally have a presentation that I did last week, and it's helping people acquire customers. And it's got, it defines 4 pieces that a business needs. It needs an attention mechanism. It needs a way to build a database. It needs a way to make a sale online, and you need to find a way to nurture the lifetime value of the client. And so I gave away the tools that I use to do each and every one of those pieces. And it's literally my business in a box. It's what I already do. And I did it knowing exactly what you just said, that even if I told you how to do it, there is a steep learning curve in implementing everything I'm sharing with you. And so people keep coming back like, hey, I know you mentioned this. How do I get help with this? Can you help me with this? It's definitely a different way of looking at how to create content. But either way, whether we do it that way or any other way, you're still saying here that content is key here, right? Creating content and putting your attention out there.
Oh, for sure. For sure. It's just a good way to kind of lead overall. I mean, you're a thought leader. All these thoughts kind of go through your mind on a daily basis. It's just literally getting them down, quote unquote, on paper. You know, if it's a blog, if it's a social media post, if it's an article, whatever it may be, an email blast, and just kind of leading with that. And I know at times people get a little scared of like, well, I know this is a lot of content. This is a lot of effort. This is a lot of whatever. But if you do the math on it, it has become so much cheaper long-term wise to go that route than try to monetize every single thing that goes out in that exact moment.
And it gives you an idea, a framework that you can work around. I want to ask you from like a student perspective. So in my class, I teach a course called financial algebra. So like we learn all kinds of day-to-day applicable financial skills. So we just finished a section on we're just starting a section on banking, for example, learning about ETFs and how Venmo and Zelle work, those types of things. But the other side of the course, I'm teaching these kids how to use marketing skills. So they're taking these long form videos that we make here in class. They're creating short clips. They're turning them into landing pages for clients. And I'm teaching them how to grab attention and funnel it into a funnel. How important is it for students today to have those kind of skills, even coming out of high school? What kind of opportunities do you see being in the marketing field that are useful to have those skill sets as they come out of high school?
Oh, I love that stuff because it forces them to be resourceful and kind of think things through. And hey, this is a good clip, or hey, I need to be able to edit this type of things out. And we're not talking about having them come out and be professional video editors. If they want to go that route, awesome, fantastic. What we're simply talking about is just becoming, again, resourceful and having another kind of tool in their belt. Oh yeah, I understand this. I can edit this for you, or I can chunk this down. Hey, this one little soundbite would be fantastic over here. It allows them to start kind of thinking through things, less at a tactical level, a little bit more at a strategic level. So that skill set is fantastic. Plus, the more that you can kind of do, and again, you don't have to be an expert in all this type of stuff. You just have to have, at times, kind of a basic knowledge. Like, oh yeah, that works. This is how we do this. This is how we do that. So that way, fast forward a few years, if you're managing somebody, you know how to do it. If you're going ahead and hiring an agency to get this stuff done, again, you know kind of how to do it. So you can tell the BS versus what actually truly works. And again, it just forces them, and I've used the term quite a few times, to be resourceful. And that's one of the best traits that you could have, coming out of college, coming out of a high school, as kind of an entry-level person. It's like, oh yeah, I'll jump with this. I'll figure this out.
Yeah, and resources are the key, right? Because we live in a world where it doesn't matter what question you have, you can ask the internet and it'll give you the answer based on your own bias. So the availability of information is there. How resourceful you are with the information that you can get, that's the whole ball game here. How are you going to put it to work for you? Now, you, for example, you won American Marketing Awards, you were winning American Marketing Awards. For some reason, I can't say that today. It's quite an achievement. So, can you share a campaign strategy that you're particularly proud of that had an impact in helping you win that award?
Yeah, so we got a couple of them. One of them, and this goes directly into content, lead with value that we were just talking about, is that we had a client that had a bunch of just longer form content. I'm trying to figure out how the best way to really use this. And they're in the e-commerce apparel business. And so what we ended up doing is we ended up checking down some of their content. Initially, we're talking about 2 to 4 minute lengths of videos, sometimes even 5-minute length videos, and would use that top of funnel. The reason why we would use that top of funnel is that, generally speaking, is if you're interested in something, you'll watch quite a bit of content, or you'll read quite a bit of content if it's more of a blog and article. If you're not, you'll just jump. And so the analogy I always use is that, I'm not a fan of cats. Half my family's allergic to cats. We'll never adopt a cat. With that being said, I've watched a bajillion 30-second cat videos. However, I'm not going to waste 2 to 3 minutes on a cat video because I'm just not interested. So if I have longer form content, let's just call it 3 minutes, and I know that somebody's watching 75% of it, that means they're really interested in what we have to say. So we're getting those people to watch 75% of these videos for 3 to 4 pennies. And I'd rather have them watch this content all day long and retarget them with another longer form and retarget them with another longer form. So now we're literally in for 12 cents and they've engaged with this 3 different times. And then we have that ask for them to go and, buy this shoe overall. But it's just a great way to be able to kind of chunk down that content. And then in the middle of the funnel, after they've already become, aware of you guys, is chopping up some of those videos into 15-second sound bites, 30-second sound bites, just that teaser, that reminder, hey, we exist. And so with them in particular, we're able to lower their cost to acquire a customer by over 30% by simply just getting them to consume a bunch of content before we ask for any type of buy. So that was one of them. The other one that always pops up is direct mail. Is direct mail dead? And the answer is no, not if you do it right. Majority of people, it's the same. You get a white envelope, in the mail that all looks the same. There's different things that you can do. We've shipped people customized Lego kits for them to put together. We've done old school viewfinder, with the reels and everything that people interact with. The whole key with that is making sure you give them something they feel guilty to throw away, or at times, honestly, give it to their kid, and their kid will, play with that brand, and so be in front of the person really quite a bit. And so we've had a lot of success off of that, really, as well, through the direct mail side of it.
That's super smart. I like the direct mail approach, because I noticed that my junk mail and direct mail is not as much as it used to be in prior years. There's definitely an opportunity in that snail mail that wasn't there before. It's a little more expensive to send out per piece, but if you're creative the way you just described, it could be worth it. And then I like the fact that you have a strategy when it comes to the paid ads section, because the truth is, the more engaging your content can be with the audience, the less you're going to pay to acquire that customer in the first place. Because places like TikTok and Facebook want you to have engaging content. They're gonna drop that CPM dollar value for more engaging content than if you have stuff that's pretty boring. So it's a good strategy to have. And I'm gonna ask you kind of a selfish question here. You've spoken at various conferences. I got a speaking engagement that's coming up at Digital Marketing Summit here on September 21st. Can you share some of your valuable insights or advice that you find that when you're on stage, the concept or the way you're doing things kind of resonates with your audience? Help me prepare for mine on the 21st.
Yeah. So I had some training on this years ago from a guy that used to train subject matter experts on how to speak in front of crowds. So he worked with engineers, a good example, architects, and things along those lines. And what he always made a comment, it depends on how long you have. Let's just say you got 60 minutes to make it math easy. He's like, every 20 minutes, you got to recap what we just talked about in the last 20 minutes. Every 20 minutes, you need to be able to get them involved somehow, some way, by asking questions, throwing out swag, getting them to honestly kind of work with the partner to kind of play a game. So that way they're interactive, is they're not just passively watching you for 60 minutes talk, is that you are always recapping the most important points over the last 20 minutes to help kind of hit home on that. And it just tends to really kind of flow better. Plus, you've done speaking gigs before, is that you feed off the energy of the crowd. And if you can get that crowd to become engaged early on with some of this and some of the activities, it just helps you on stage kind of get into flow that much better, really, as well.
Yeah, that energy from the crowd is always awesome. Kind of identify a couple people that you kind of engage with, and you can keep an eye on the eyeballs and the smiles or the dozing and the picking up their phones. You can kind of get an idea how that works. But I like the engagement part, because I think that's a big difference. It's about a 30 to 45 minute talking time, so I definitely need to make sure I do those recaps as well. I saw on August 31st, YouTube Shorts made a little bit of a change, where you can attach now an original video that people can go and kind of watch the short and be like, ooh, that's interesting, and then go back and go see the full video. What do you think that's going to do for people like us, podcasters and long form content creators that are kind of taking advantage of the short form content, but also want to bring traffic to that long form?
Yeah, I love that change, because it allows you to whet their appetite a little bit. It allows them to go a heck of a lot deeper into whatever the subject might be. So it just allows you to kind of pre-qualify them and then have a really good conversation, if you will, with that longer form content. And so I really like that aspect of it, because to a certain extent, we've done a ton of testing on YouTube Shorts, on TikTok, and a bunch of these shorts. And honestly, if they're just scrolling nonstop, you're not building a relationship. But if we can get them to stop that scroll and now consume, even honestly, if it's 2 minutes of your 10-minute video, it's still a deeper connection than what they had over the first 10 to 15 seconds anyway.
It's definitely going to grow that viewership and that engagement with you. But let me ask you about the difference in all these different platforms. I mean, you can go anywhere from Pinterest to TikTok to Shorts to Reels. There's so many different things, and they're evolving at such a rapid pace. What advice do you give to businesses to kind of choose the right mix for their own marketing strategies? Omnipresent everywhere, focus on one. What's kind of your advice?
Yeah, it's Great question with that. Typically, we take a look at doing as many channels as we can within a set budget, but take a look at digital as well as offline. Now, we do a ton, and this is interesting. So we do a ton of TV buys. TV buys at times right now can literally be a seventh of the cost at a CPM level than it is on Meta right now. On LinkedIn, I mean, literally I'm pulling a report for a client right now, is at a CPM level, is they can do an advertisement in the Wall Street Journal for their region for a cheaper CPM level in total cost, honestly, than LinkedIn. So we always want to balance out as much as possible. I understand a bunch of clients are nationwide, so it's not like they were only selling in Nebraska or wherever it may be. Well, let's pick up some spot markets. And we can really target these people. And the more that we can balance out the traditional with the digital, the more we actually see digital costs get lowered, and your overall results get higher. And the big reason behind that aspect of it is it's kind of a costly signal. Is if I see an ad on Facebook or on Instagram, is that we know that can be cheap. It doesn't mean you're a legit company, a real company, because we've been burned by it, in our past for 10, 12 years. However, if I see somebody on TV or a billboard, it's like, holy crap, they got TV money, they got billboard money, they got, fill in the blank on the traditional side of it. That means that they must have cash. That means that other people just like me have trusted them for that product or for that service. And so it offers a lot more credibility. And again, we just see so much better results if we can balance that out online as well as kind of offline. If you're taking a look at purely just kind of online, let's just figure out where the masses are at. We've seen a bunch of data on the TikTok side of it. We've seen a lot of consumption on the TikTok side of it. We haven't seen a ton of conversion on the TikTok side of it. Not saying that there's not a there is. What we have seen is when we run some TikTok stuff is more and more people go to Google to find out that much more about you, which regardless how anybody finds out about you. I don't care if it's a billboard or going back to TikTok, like they're going to Google to find that much more. And so that's always the tactic that we want to be able to keep in mind. And really be monitoring what does our organic growth on our website look like and what does our direct growth on the website look like. We're always trying to look at balancing that out as much as possible. So we're not just contingent on one channel. And I'm sure you've heard the horror stories of people running and spending literally $10,000 a day on Meta, and they wake up one morning and their ad account is shut down for no good reason. And then you're really kind of screwed. So this way you can get balanced out. So if you have a channel that's underperforming or literally gets shut off, you still have other things that compensate for that.
You can't have all your eggs in one basket. That's the number one rule we always learned about. And it goes the same way with marketing. At the end of the day, you have no control over those social platforms. They're going to do what they're going to do when they're going to do it, and the changes they're going to make, you really have no say. So having a strategy in place to have multiple places, to start building your database so you have control over your marketing, those are all key aspects. If people want to reach out to you, Steve, they want to learn more about what you do, they want to maybe start growing that organic stuff, building their brand so that when people Google them, they show up as relevant, and they want to have a social presence that is omnipresent. How can they do that?
Yeah, you can check us out at malymarketing.com. That's MALY marketing.com. We also have a resources page. And so it's just malymarketing.com/resources. On that resources page, we will see a ton of videos that I've had, just kind of walking people through different marketing tactics, different marketing strategies. I think we have 6 or 7 videos up there. We have a calculator to help you kind of figure out how much can I spend in order to acquire a customer. We have kind of a true ROAS calculator up there as well. So that's really kind of the best place to go is to get started is on that resource page. And consume some of that content. And then if you're interested, more than happy to do an audit over any type of marketing you guys do. We see numbers day in and day out nonstop. So real quick, I could tell you, dude, that's great. Double down here, or there's something super fishy over here. Let's think about this in kind of a different way. And more than happy to kind of help out on an audit. I'd say the best place to get started is malymarketing.com/resources.
Perfect, man. Thank you very much for coming on the show today. I got one more selfish question here. Everything from when you booked on the show, you're in marketing, which is kind of a unique way for me to talk to somebody because you're doing a lot of the same stuff we do, which is super awesome. So everything from when you booked the spot on the show to getting your reminder text emails to now being on the show itself and creating long form content with us, what was your experience like being on the Business Bros?
See, it was super interesting because I've been on a bunch of different podcasts, and you guys so far are the only ones that truly have had a good follow-up sequence outside of like, hey, remember in 1 hour your podcast starts. You have me on your email blast that kind of go out, which was good educational content, good branding over the top, consumed really quite a bit. So that way, it reminded me that, hey, I got this podcast coming up in X number of weeks that's coming up, but I just got to know you guys on a much more of an intimate level and better understanding of who you really are. And so there's a lot of, we always joke, it's like the cobbler's kids. Is the cobbler's kids never have any shoes. You guys are actually following through on what you do because you do marketing and you're actually putting it into action as well. So I was very impressed with that.
Perfect, man. Thank you very much. And that's the idea, right? Is to take your business from being invisible to being visible to become incredible and ultimately profitable. And you do that in a step-by-step basis. It doesn't happen overnight as much as in any marketing company wants to tell you they'll turn you famous in like 3 weeks or whatever it is. It's just not the way it really works. So be cautious of those types of things. And literally what you're hearing from Steve today is exactly right. It's a process. There's data involved. There's a way to do things so that you can win over the long haul, and it's a strategic way of doing these things. So if you guys are interested, make sure you check out his website, malymarketing.com, malymarketing.com, scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Steve, thank you very much for being on the program today. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace, and we're out.
Appreciate it.
It's over. Go home. Is your business in need of marketing? Try starting a podcast, but not just any podcast. Podcast like a pro. We can show you how to take your business from being invisible to becoming a brand people trust. Go to www.businessbros.biz